film like this out there. But here we are 20 years later, and it did pop up, and I did finally get to see it before today. And it was fascinating to me, first of all, because H looks so young in this film, and I don't remember him being that young ever. And the star of the film is his campaign manager, Jens, I think. But, Newsom, actually, it's not a negative film on Newsom. I mean, one of the things that I really like about the film is that it shows kind of how you have to do politics at the kind of city council level. And one of the things that happens is you got to debate your opponents. And, I've had criticism for years of like Nancy Pelosi not ever debating any of her challengers and things like that, and how undemocratic it is. And there's footage here of Newsom going to the district to debate. And of course, they're going to lob bombs at him and give him a hard time and all of that. But you just have to respect Newsom and anybody that is already in a position of power, and they could just like decide not to participate in the democratic process because their election is safe and all of that. And I just have a lot of respect for the fact that he did debate a number of other candidates, and a lot of candidates do the same. It's not like some, I'm not giving them some special citation or anything, but it was just nice to see that. There is a rule, I don't know that much about it because I've never tried to activate it, but that if you're homeless or you don't have a place that you call your permanent home, you are allowed to run for supervisor in a particular district. And I don't know that they do a particularly good job of policing whether or not you're even homeless in the district, or that's a requirement or not. But H. Brown went through a period of time where he ran for district supervisor, and I think he made it to about 3 different races. Is that right, H?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 3 races. And so this is the story of...
They made a new law so there's nobody else can do it again.
Yeah.
They put a guy in jail, a libertarian, for doing it.
Did Tony film most of this, or who was the primary filmmaker?
No, we filmed it. Rich
Yeah.
and Courtney.
What else did I want to say? Enjoy the film. It's a long suppressed classic. When they advertised the film, they sort of used a number of other names, folks that are here, Adriel Hampton and others. And it's not really, we have cameos. This is really about H. Brown and Jens. I don't know Jens' last name. And Nielsen, that's right. And it's really a lot of fun. It's really great to remember the days of being out on the street and talking to potential voters and just calling it the way it is. So pleasure to be here. H, congratulations. Courtney, Rich, thanks for making the film and getting it out finally. Cheers.
Let me say one thing.
Yeah.
This film took 23 years to get out. The film we're making, if you now watching this film 22 years ago, will be on the internet tomorrow.
Cool to say it's okay. Do you live in this district?
I do.
Would you mind signing so that I can run?
Why should I sign?
You ask me any question you want, and if you like what I answer, then go for it. I'm an old hippie. Okay, Charles Bukowski, I don't know if you guys ever read Bukowski, but Bukowski says the number one friend that art has is cheap rent. I think that we should have 15 to 20% of the structures in the city be owned literally by the city under a land trust. I'm 58 years old, and I'm really an old hippie with a liberal agenda and all that. And I think that that's lacking in the debate. I'm a veteran of the Navy, and I'm a political columnist for the San Francisco Call, which is 150 years old online at sfcall.com. Ma'am, I would like to run for supervisor in District 2. It's not a vote, but would you let me run? Right where you're living?
District 2 is interesting because it is certainly one of the more conservative districts in San Francisco. Could go all the way. President Gavin.
I think I don't see anybody at this point who can touch Newsom unless he gets caught fucking sheep or ponies or one of the neighborhood kids. What can life be the gentrification, the pricing out of anybody who makes, who doesn't make a bunch of money has continued unabated in San Francisco despite the recession. So I don't see it changing much. I'd say in 10 years, 10 years, I'll be gone way before that. But in 10 years, it'll be a town bereft of hippies. And hippies and dancers and artists and musicians, there'll still be some around, but it's not going to be the same as it was.
Still a hippie.
Thank you.
You think the hippie spirit still exists in San Francisco?
I still exist.
What is a hippie?
I don't know. But here I am, you know?
What are your plans for your future?
Well, I think about going to religion because if people weren't stupid enough to buy me as a politician, the only place I know where there are stupider people than in politics is in religion. So I think it's a natural one. I'll find Jesus or Muhammad or one of those people and, you know, announce that I have a message for you. It could save your life. You could find love. You could find some peace, find your life. Shit like that, you know. Lonely brother, giving up hope. Thought your ship would never come in. Well, I'm here to tell you I have a message for you. Religions like that.
I'm Adriel Hampton, and I got Rich Hillis, filmmaker here. We got Courtney Haslett, and Matt Gonzalez, I believe, is still with us right here. So if folks have questions about the film, we've got H. Brown here, this is the candidate. And you know, I called it Gavin Newsom for President of the United States. So does anyone have a question? Raise your hand, and I'll bring the mic over.
Hey Adrian, I just want to say one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Just want to acknowledge two people from the movie that we couldn't put the credits in. It was edited by Liza Main-Siebold. We needed help with it. It was our first time doing anything. We didn't know what we were doing. And all the music was done by Randy Clark. He's a local musician here. He teaches at Blue Bear School of Music, and all the guitar was him. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and Rip Jens Nielsen also.
Yeah. And Nesca.
And Nesca.
We turn on the lights and I like this.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
In the introductory comments, it said this film was suppressed all these years. I don't understand why.
Yeah. It was actually in Courtney's, it was on a thumb drive in Courtney's change drawer. We just kind of lost it. It really wasn't suppressed.
It was suppressed by our laziness.
We made it, we cut it, and then we kind of, we lost track of it, we went about our work.
I added the word suppressed to get some attention. Well, no. Some of us just wondered what happened to it.
Yeah.
So we just started trying to create a narrative around, you know, why was it out?
I went on to work for Newsom and others in the mayor's office, so they told me, if you put out this film, we're gonna cut your job. And I was thinking, no.
Randy?
I was just gonna say, I was gonna ask Adriel if his opinion is different. When he said Newsom was gonna be president, he said he had a wife. That wife was Kimberly Guilfoyle
You know
at
what?
the time.
Yeah.
Does that change your opinion?
No. He's Gavin Newsom has always known that politics is a reality show, just like H. Brown.
Bernie Sanders.
That was it, yeah, that was Adriel.
Was it young you?
Adriel was working for the Examiner, at the time.
Yeah.
The fact. I don't know what was going on.
Is there a future? Is there will this film are you gonna push it out into the world further? I mean, it kind of is a story that's happening in cities around the country where there's the aging hippie, but also the no place for cheap rent for artists, for
Right.
students, for young people. That's not just here, you know, it's a pretty big story, actually.
Yeah, we're open to whatever, but, it is interesting that 22 years later, that same theme of the movie is more relevant now than it was, so.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
H. Brown was kind of the original Zoran Madonna, you know, his message that was out there about cities.
Yeah.
I mean, still kind of resonates.
We had 100,000 volunteers, Rich.
You had Jens.
We had gents.
But it was great. We were gonna originally, I think the idea was like, we were gonna find some actor to run for, you know, the dog runs for supervisor kind of story and wins. It was our original intent, you know, to find somebody to run, and then we found H, who was, I mean, genius, you know, the stuff he was writing about the board of supervisors at the time, how he performed in the debates, you know, he was a natural out there.
Self-indulgent.
For, if you read his writing, I don't know if that still exists today, when you're kind of writing back about the board of supervisors. I worked for the city, but H, you know, would watch Channel 26 or whatever it was and write about the board of supervisors. But I think one of the more insightful, and Matt said this during the movie, like, he was very insightful about SF politics and the board of supervisors and what was going on at the time, so it was sort of natural for the film.
And I would just add to that, you know, we were aligned with H on his message, but if H wasn't a compelling character, the movie probably wouldn't have been a go. And we had a funny story that when I first met H, Rich said we should meet this H and maybe follow his campaign. We went and had beers at the Hideout over on the Californian High, and you know, I met him, and obviously, you know, the charms of H were immediately, you know, to be seen. But then 2 or 3 years later, after we had filmed, he had cut his hair to where it is now, and we told him, H, if you had this haircut back then, we would have never made the movie. So part of it is just, you know, not part of it. Most of it was just H, the person.
It was, well, we interviewed Matt too at it was at Mommy Toby's, which was on in Hayes Valley, kind of on TV. He brought, Art Agnos was with you, I don't know why. But he came and we tried to interview Art Agnos for the movie, but all he talked about was like, how are you guys, do you guys make money on this? Like, what are you doing? What is this film about? He just kind of questioned us the whole time. But it was just a fun experience, kind of. Jens, you see, I mean, we interviewed Jens for hours, Diamond Dave Whitaker. You know, they were great characters to kind of talk to and film on this. So it was a fun time.
Glenn Pettigrew, what was his story? He a teacher? What was that?
He was a linebacker for the Eagles, and then he was a boxer.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Was he
was
not a
great guy.
serious candidate?
He was head of security in Matt's mayoral campaign.
Okay.
I have a question for you, to the filmmakers. When you rediscovered
I
the
like to call
film,
it film.
did you guys have to edit it, or was it completed already?
The edit you saw is the last edit. Rich and I took a crack at it in 2004 or whatever. If we wanted to edit it now, I don't think we could. We don't. The technology is completely different. We don't even know where the raw footage is anymore. So we would call that maybe 90% done. It would have been nice if we could put some credits and some titles and cleaned up a couple things, but we literally don't think we could do it now if we wanted to.
Why did it take so long for it to come out? Because I heard about that movie for many years. My movie coming out. Which working on my movie?
Let me get one thing straight. I ran, and I completely planned it. I mean, I know I was gonna, lose, it didn't matter. But I thought that at the time, I met Matt Gonzalez in, I guess, 98 or 99 or something, and I said, this guy should be president. And then I ran across Newsom, and I said, this guy's gonna be president. He's got $1 billion. Getty at the time was the richest human being on earth. You can't get, and look at Gavin's career. I mean, my mom and dad came out of the hills to go work in the munitions plants. We're hillbillies, of the worst, we're poor people. Newsom has made his career on the backs of poor people. You got care not cash there, you got no sit line, and even this Prop 50 that just passed, that's on the backs of poor people. It's rednecks. He's taken away the vote, the meaning of the vote for a bunch of MAGA people. I'm sorry they're MAGA people, but for God's sake, all this gerrymandering and all this crap and all that, it's on the backs of poor people. Gavin has made his entire career on the backs of the poor. No comment, huh? I'll tell you a story. I was propaganda minister in Matt's campaign the next year for mayor, and a lot of people took that seriously, and they came to the little office that I had, and they told me stories about Gavin. One of them said, look, the guy has had some kind of a sexual escapade or whatever in the campaign. And Adriel said, I'm not going to print that. It didn't involve the candidate. Look at now. I mean, it didn't involve the candidate, so we're not going to go with that. One guy came and said, he's not a real businessman. They give him a 10%, Getty give him 10% of a little bitty empire so that he can say that he's a businessman. But all he is a concierge. And I had a cab driver come and he said, you know, I got a call to go to one of Gavin's businesses to pick somebody up. And I went in and the bar is closed and Gavin comes out and says, he's going to be a couple minutes here. He said, I wait 10 minutes. And I go to the door and Gavin pushes me back and says, no, come on, he's going to come and be a good pair. So I waited another 10 minutes. And he sat there and he said, I go to the door and Gavin comes out and says, he's not going to go. And I said, well, what about my time? What about all this? And Gavin said, go away or I'll call the cops. Okay, that's where the guy is. The guy is on the backs of the poor and backed up by all. That's Trump. That's right on down the line. The billionaires are taking over the place, and they like playing with police forces. In this district right here, I like our president mayor. He's a good guy. I know him. He's been in my place. He came to my birthday party before he was mayor. But first thing he did when he came here was he appointed a police chief who changed our captain here. Our captain here was a woman who was from the district, and she moved the community meetings out into the district. The cops usually had them in the station so they could phone you and get your name. You know, she had moved on. They took her away and they put in a knuckle dragger. Who was first thing that he did was he brought back the guy. Remember the downhill, what the hell they call the skateboard guys or whatever that go downhill.
Skate bomb.
The hill bomb. The captain that put that together and arrested over 100 young Latinos because he wanted their information. They drove him out. This captain they brought in, he was even a lieutenant, and he was on the Brady list. That means that he's not to be trusted in court because you can't believe him. His record is so damn bad. So they brought him in to run our station. He brought the captain back from the hill bomb in his first week for the 4th of July, and they went out with the phalanx of guys in riot gear, and they went from one corner to the next. What do you do on 4th of July? You go out in the street with your neighbors, shoot off some fireworks, and get drunk. They do it in the mission too, but in the mission they get attacked by cops. They went from one corner to the next, to the next, to the next. So
Our
I don't
sequel's
like
gonna be
being
H
there.
running against Lurie.
I like Daniel Lurie. You remember one thing about the guy, okay? And it's very important. He's gonna be mayor for 8 years. There's no way you're gonna dislodge somebody with the kind of money he's got. And he's got a 76% rating. The mission is much more dangerous now, and the cops are much more incompatible, but the city likes him. But the one thing he's got going for him is he can change on a dime, and he doesn't have to worry about, oh, the unions are gonna go against him. The unions voted against him anyway. Whatever, he doesn't need any of them. He can change for the good, and he is a good guy. He's a decent human being, I say, who's fallen in with bad company. Whom he picked.
All right, any other questions? I mean, one thing I would just say, like, on a positive note, like you heard H say he's not gonna be around in 10 years. You know, Jen stuck around, Diamond Dave Whitaker, I think he's still around, Matt's still around, like, I'm still bullish. I mean, I tend to be bullish on San Francisco, even though when I moved here in '95, you know, same issues were happening with gentrification, things were getting more expensive. It's still happening, but you know, kind of those core values that we have to promote artists and you know, kind of the San Francisco culture, I think still exists today. So I'm still positive and bullish on San Francisco.
Yay.
I keep from being depressed by, saying that I really believe now that we're all living in our own individual simulations. We all chose, I can't believe that in reality that Trump is president. But I can believe that I'm 81 years old, and if I had chosen a character to inhabit for this period, that I want to have a presidency of Kamala Harris, boring as vanilla. Now Trump, I wake up every morning scared shitless. It's exciting.
So I'm curious, is there a story behind your name, H?
Yeah, it's nobody liked my name. I was actually on Baby Boy Brown. Yeah, I was the 8th of 8 kids, and they born 3 in the city hospital. Born in a place with electricity. That was new for my family, and so they didn't have a name for me. And so it says on my birth certificate, Baby Boy Brown. As I'm leaving the hospital, the doctor looks and says, "You didn't name him after me." So they named me after the doctor, and they didn't like it, so they were hillbillies, so they called me HL. So it got shortened to H. Brown, so I got Harold Lee Brown.
I'm gonna try not to make a speech. I enjoyed the film, thank you. Captured the moment really well. I've been living in the Bay Area since the early '80s. So, and it's just interesting, I think somebody else made this point, but just how, you know, kind of the more things change, the more they stay the same. I remember that kind of the turn of the century then, and it felt like a big crisis, and how about that? Things feel like a big crisis now. You know, about the, I'll probably be able to say this more articulately after I think about it after I leave an hour from now, but, you know, like kind of the politics that were being articulated at that time, and there were some similar things earlier, were, you know, real marginal and maybe not even 100% serious. It's sort of like, oh, we're just going to make a point. Well, those politics are serious now. Those are actually taken seriously now. There's a whole young generation. I mean, people make a lot about Mandami. He's interesting. He's also kind of a patrician. He actually kind of reminds me of Gavin Newsom. I'm interested in what's under him and what got him elected. And there's a thing like DSA now, which was nothing 10 years ago.
Started when he was a teenager. His best friend was Billy Getty. His dad's best friend was Gordon Getty, who was J. Paul's son.
You talking about
so
Gavin?
He hung out with, they hung out together as a family. So Billy, they decided that they were going to make Billy the president of the United States. So they started out with locution lessons. So let's teach the guy to talk. And Billy said, I won't take them unless my best friend Gavin gets to take them with me. So they took the lessons together, and Billy hated him, and Gavin loved him, and here we are.
So question, 10 seconds. Are you going to get back into electoral politics, Matt? Or are you done with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do want to say one thing, you know, watching the film, what's really interesting is just reflecting on how people make political choices in campaigns, you know. And one of the reoccurring narratives in the film is this idea of like the legalization of marijuana. Right? You watch this film, it's not that long ago, and yet you realize, oh wait, it wasn't legal back then. And there's this that whole incident at City Hall. And you know, you just reflect on how long that took and how stupid it was that it took that long. But to the first point, you know, I always wonder, like, you know, let me say it this way. When I ran for mayor, one of the reasons that I had some success was that I had the legitimacy of already being an officer. And so the typical way to marginalize, the candidate from the left or whatever is to, it's easy to say, well, they don't know what they're doing, they've never done anything. I mean, that doesn't work if you're already in there. And I think that we often are held captive by this idea that somebody needs experience to do the job. And, it's interesting because Lurie, putting aside this District 4 thing that happened recently, it looked like he was going to get to the end of his first year and everyone was going to celebrate how the narrative of like the need for an outsider who would be able to figure it out and all of that, how successful that had been. But to a campaign like this District 2 race, I just wonder, how do people decide to cast their vote? Are they, if they don't attend a candidates forum, are they just looking for trusted endorsers like the Chronicle or the Bay Guardian or certain endorsements? Has that changed? Has technology and really the just decentralization of media and the rise of social media and all that, has that made it better or worse in terms of how you figure out who your candidate is? I don't know. Do you think it would be different? Are people more open to alternative
Matt
candidates?
served one term. He did more in that one term than the only person who did more was Amiano, and he took 12 years. You got a motorcycle parked outside, Matt gave you the parking. You have any representation on the Board of Appeals? How about the Planning Commission? How about the Police Commission? Matt Gonzalez took all of that to the ballot. He took away like 40% or 30% of Willie Brown's power. And of all the time Matt was the president of the Board of Supervisors, you know what Willie Brown said to him? Nothing, nada, not a word in all the time.
No, that's
Matt,
not true.
Matt you can believe about half of what I said.
Living wage. I forgot living wage. That was.
I'll just say, when I was president of the Board of Supervisors, I did have a weekly breakfast with Willie Brown. He was always very friendly. Randy was at many of those. He was a real, very impressive knowledge-wise, and was always very open. However, the 2 years before that, I had not had meetings with him, and so we were
No, I lie a lot.
It is the thing about H when he was, he was writing about the board, and he was writing for the San Francisco Call. At the time, there was an online presence, but also a print version. And the photograph they used of H was kind of a fellow in a beret or hat of some kind, and his face was kind of, there was a shadow over it. So you couldn't tell who it was. I thought it was a pseudonym for somebody, who's H. Brown? And he would write these kind of insightful, knowledgeable pieces because he was watching every single meeting of the Board of Supervisors. However, he was drinking and smoking while he did that, so they're about 85% accurate. But still, that's better than most.
It's hard, I don't know who fills that void that H had. I think Betsey Culp said people liked reading about themselves, which I think is true, politicians, or they all kind of H is gone. Not just because they were in it, because it was insightful too. There were facts in there, and H kind of analyzed it.
But I had 2,000 readers at the top, and 90% of them worked for the city.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think if there's no more questions, appreciate you coming.
I want you people to know that of all of the people and of all of the places we've been in this campaign, you people here are the most recent.